Reactions Matter by David W. Searcy, Jr. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the content.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having another beautiful day. We got us a Dallas Cowboy game here going on in a little while. I'm hoping the Detroit Lions will just take them straight out of the... Anyway, let's get back to this. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Like the video. Leave a comment. Share. Help me grow this channel. Let's get started. Scientists showed a new alien body that cannot be explained, that nobody can explain. Alien bodies, alright.
What was discovered during a covert operation in Egypt? Who or what did the residents of a small American city actually encounter? Watch the episode
guys.
To the end and you'll find out the answers to these questions. Let's go. First,
before we even get into this, do you believe in aliens, ghosts, angels, spirit world?
First up today is an interesting skull from Bulgaria, which many people,
Whoa,
for quite reasonable reasons, consider unnatural and belonging to someone from another civilization. This amazingly valuable relic was found 93 miles southeast of the city of Sofia. The skull was found buried next to a small oval metal object. The person who put it there preferred to remain anonymous, although there's every chance that it was not a human handiwork at all. Nevertheless, one of the locals confessed that it was allegedly
what's going on here,
him. As proof, he told news agencies his version of what happened, asking to remain anonymous. And his version was as follows. It all started with a hazy and incomprehensible dream in which he encountered 5 aliens dressed in suits of yellow, unearthly metals. They showed him the place he must come to. At first, he refused to do this. He thought everything was complete nonsense and had good reasons for it. But when the so-called visits of the aliens through his head became more frequent, he still went to the coordinates from the dream. If there had been nothing there and the dreams had continued, he might well have been taken for a mental examination at a local clinic. But fortunately for the man, this was not necessary. For once on the spot, he did find something strange. It was a humanoid creature, or rather its skull. It was unlike any known to modern science. It obviously couldn't have anything to do with humans, nor could it be a mutant of any animal for sure. For some time, the man kept the relic at home and was afraid to tell the public about it. The next portion of dreams forced him to do so. The find was accessed by all the most famous archaeologists, and none of them doubted the alien origin of the object. It's likely that when this monster was alive, it could have 6 eyes and perhaps even other organs.
A 6-eyed monster.
Organs completely unknown to us. The absence of a mouth in the place we're accustomed to seeing it is great evidence of this. Either it was located somewhere else, or the aliens eat in some other way. What do you think? What is it? Have people finally found real evidence of aliens? Or is it still the skull of some frightening mutant? Share your thoughts in the comments.
Patients often ask me, how much do dental implants cost? How is Nuvia able to provide their
The story of unusual finds does not end with skulls alone. I suggest we talk about a curious alien from Peru, or rather about its mummy, discovered by amateur researchers. Yes, I also used to think that amateurs in this case are not able to find something amazingly rare and valuable because all these places have already been scoured 1,000 times by experienced specialists. But as practice and time show, not everything is as simple as it seems at first sight. On the desert plateau of Nazca, people really found a mummy, which according to preliminary estimates is a little less than 2,000 years old. At the time the humanoid was discovered, its body was covered in white powder, which the research team says was used to preserve the remains. They also claim that, judging by the carbon samples, their find dates back to 245 to 410 years AD. These figures have not yet been confirmed by experts, but they have already caused just a lot of all sorts of controversy. So some skeptics believe that the find is definitely a fake. Allegedly, it was covered with something like a plaster and passed off as an alien mummy for the sake of hype. Another part of the experts is convinced of the opposite. In their opinion, the features that the mummy possessed do not match anything previously published by people. This is a completely different image of aliens, which may well be considered real. Speaking of real aliens, while scientists are reading tea leaves to determine whether this mummy is real or not, the residents of a small American city of Mount Vernon are on a completely different level, because they personally, with their own eyes, saw on their home streets a creature of extraterrestrial origin. At the time of publication of this news, that is in 2018, in just a month and a half, as many as 3 residents of the city, unfamiliar with each other, reported the same unknown guest. According to their versions, around August, something strange, skinny, and tall first entered the streets of the city. As soon as it was spotted, the people immediately recreated.
That's crazy. Aliens. There's been a lot of talk about aliens
In a sketch,
lately, huh?
according to which the monster almost exactly matched that alien from the past story. It too had those rounded facial features, was skinny, but really not as tall. A note to this photo added that the alien was encountered by an ordinary machinist. The man personally saw the alien crossing a cornfield. The alien was about 6.5 feet tall. Its
That's
skin
a
was
cool
yellowish brown, and it had absolutely no hair on its body. According to the eyewitnesses, the first thing he thought was that it was a deer, but when the headlights illuminated the visitor from another planet, alternative versions instantly became irrelevant. Next, the man contacted a local investigator, told him everything, gave the coordinates, and left. He feared he'd be subjected to ridicule and distrust by the government. But if he had only known at that moment that in a couple of days or weeks, he would no longer be the only witness to this monster. It's not known what became of the alien, where it disappeared to, or if anyone else saw it. However, the investigation so far knows one thing. The people who made the story public never knew each other. This has been checked many times for collusion and has not been confirmed. It turns out that they did encounter an alien that apparently found a way to return to its home world and flew away.
ET phone home?
And this story happened even earlier, but it did not become less interesting. The case was in Mexico.
A Mexican child? Have you ever ran across an alien? Do you
On a
got
private
any
ranch.
footage that says
The
you
owner of the
seen an
ranch
alien?
was doing the usual thing, catching rats, mice, and other harmful rodents with the help of traps. Then the man usually released the animals he caught somewhere aside so that they do not spoil his work. But this time he got into his hands one that he certainly did not intend to let go. Somewhere in the middle of the night, in the pitch darkness, the man's calm was disturbed by a frightening squeak, which was radically different from the sounds made by rodents known to mankind. The man turned on the light, went to check the trap, and was at a loss for words. In front of him was something child-sized, but clearly not belonging to humans or any animals. The rancher didn't know what to do in such a situation, so he just decided to take at least a night to think about it. However, he was unable to sleep. This something was screaming louder and louder. It seemed as if the creature was about to jump out of the trap and do something terrible. Worried for his life and the lives of his loved ones, the man poured acid on the unknown creature, after which it soon subsided and even mummified. The next morning, the man invited scientists to his house, who immediately became interested in taking DNA for examination. However, none of the tests showed even the slightest resemblance to the inhabitants of Earth. The teeth of this monster were not covered with enamel, and the spine was seriously different from the structure of the spine of primates. At the same time, the creature's
I mean, look at that thing. It's got a tail.
brain was quite well developed, far better than that of apes. But then, what was it, and how did it end up on the peaceful ranch of a random resident? After all, even if it were the subject of forbidden experiments, it clearly should not have appeared on the territory of a simple farmer. There are really only two options here. Either it's an alien, because everything suggests just such thoughts, or it's some unique mutant, to determine the identity of which was not possible because of the acid poured on the monster. The following case dates back to May 1997, when something new was planned on American television, something that viewers could not even dream of before. In the basement of the television studio, in almost total darkness, a real interview with an alien took place. Rustles and vague whispers were clearly heard, and sometimes strange shadows flickered in the frame. The host of the program, genuinely interested in the subject, was eager to explain that, in his opinion, this was a rare moment when mankind would get a glimpse of a world it had only wondered about for so long. The alien interview was planned as the most groundbreaking television experiment in history. This dramatic situation lasted almost half an hour as the broadcast suddenly cut off. Millions of viewers in America were left in shock and couldn't believe that this moment they'd been
Yeah, they just shut the feed off, huh? They're just like, oh.
counting on so much had failed in the snap of a finger. The anticipation
It's not working for you. You can't watch this
was
no
unbearable.
more.
The next day, news outlets reported a comprehensive investigation by the Commission for Scientific Research and the FBI following the incident. Very soon, they released evidence indicating that it was a completely real broadcast. They confirmed that an interview with the alien had taken place and that it had been decided to perform an autopsy on the creature to reveal its nature. The alien autopsy was performed in strict secrecy under scrutiny of experts and scientists. The results were so shocking that some of the fragments were hidden from view. There was speculation that these hidden fragments might contain information that was too shocking for ordinary people and could disturb the public peace. However, some leaks indicated that those fragments were not shown to the public, described not only the physical features of the alien, but something more: its origins, goals, and vision of the future. These leaks sparked a bunch of speculation and became an important catalyst for even more intensive UFO research in the future. Nevertheless, to this day, there are many scientists who are convinced that this interview is a brazen and in some places even ridiculous fake that only the most uninformed viewer would believe. In any case, it seems to me that it will no longer be possible to find out.
Why do you think that uninformed viewers? Oh, that doesn't make any sense, bro. That doesn't make any sense.
3 surprising reasons why you can't go to the
All of that
bathroom.
could be
Number 1,
real. You can't go to the bathroom.
you're eating tomatoes. The skin.
Who says that confirmation of the existence of aliens can only be in the case of an encounter with these very aliens? It seems to me that along with an encounter, there could be some kind of discovery like a galactic disk. It was found in South America, and as soon as it happened, it was hypothesized that the object was connected to our Milky Way galaxy. The amazing appearance makes the find unique. Experts have never found anything like this before. The artifact differs from all others in its unique patterns, which people are not able to recreate.
It's got a knob
Most
on
likely,
the
the
top.
spiral
It does
shape
look like a
connects the
galaxy,
artifact with
huh?
space and tells us that it had a special meaning for beings from another planet. After all, it's with the help of a symbol similar to a spiral that the universe was showed in various ancient cultures. In India, there was even such a thing as a vortex of luminaries. It translated literally. But let's get back to our artifact. Its age has never been determined. People only determined the age of the rock in which it was found and went directly to the study of the composition, as well as to determine its meaning. It's believed that the artifact
Like what kind of materials are in it?
was created several thousand years ago by ancient Native
Who knew how
Americans. They had amazing technologies, even by current standards, with which they created this eighth wonder of nature. It's likely that the dots on the disc are not placed in random order, but are something like a map or a cipher. However, our knowledge is still objectively insufficient to understand this. Have you ever heard of a mission with that name, ISIDA project? I'm sure you haven't, because this project was carried out back in 1961 and was very secret. Nevertheless, a strange video in terrible quality has appeared on the internet, allegedly showing one of the expedition members filming and showing everything the scientists were working on. Of course, as soon as this data hit the internet, many people interested in mysticism began to ask questions to the state and ask for an explanation of this recording. However, the authorities did not comment on it in any way at all. According to this story, if it's true, of course, 100 years ago, people found in Egypt the mummy of an ancient alien, which at that time was about 13,000 years old. Since the exhibit was extremely valuable and scientifically important, they decided not to publicize this story, but an employee who was offended by something leaked the data and information and remained anonymous. The remains, which were taken out of the box on the clip, are hidden in a sarcophagus similar to the usual Egyptian sarcophagi of pharaohs, and in general, from the looks
That's crazy.
of it, it's difficult to say how the remains differ from the usual Egyptian mummy. However, you have to admit that it's unlikely that people would go to visit the mummies in special suits with gas masks. Most likely, everyone to the last in this room understood that they're dealing with something alien, with someone from whom no one knew what to expect. Once again, Mexico. And once again, something incredible. At a recent hearing that relates directly to UFOs, scientists showed brand new alien bodies that, judging by radiation analysis, are several thousand years old. According to the researchers, the specimens they discovered are the result of extraterrestrial evolution. Despite the fact that signs of life on our planet were found in the bodies, most likely they came here from somewhere outside and have been living with us for the last few years while remaining unnoticed. But what was the essence of such an existence? What benefit did the creatures derive from it? And why didn't they return to their homeland? It's never understood. According to official data, about 14 such bodies were found in total. Analyses have showed that the shape of the alien skull is similar to that of birds. The mysterious creature had thin and light bones, and they also completely lacked teeth. It's not yet known what and how they ate. It's cool to take the scientist's word for it.
If they ate, they had to poop. If they drank, they had to pee.
But it also feels like they may be lying sometimes. It's their job to generate excitement around their discoveries. But this can't be said about astronauts, people who hang out in space all the time. Why would they want to cause a fuss about their personalities? Despite this, one of them, who claimed to be a former NASA employee, told the world a shocking truth. According to him, there are several pictures on the internet that were taken directly by himself and his colleagues on the spacecraft. However, there is one nuance in the pictures. From one angle, nothing strange or unusual can be seen in them, and from another angle, an alien ship is clearly visible. Of course, the authorities wanted to make the first option public, hiding the second one from prying eyes. But they couldn't do it. The conscience of the former astronaut did not allow him to keep the secret forever. What do you think this picture shows? Was there really a spaceship on the moon at that moment? If so, it would be a revolutionary discovery. Sumerian tablets. The Sumerians are traditionally associated with the emergence of civilization, the origin of the first cities and states of ancient Mesopotamia, and the emergence of writing. They left behind many clay tablets. On them they recorded myths, laws, and much more. The deciphered text shows that the Sumerians had extensive knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, medicine, metallurgy, and
That's crazy. These guys were
agriculture.
super smart,
They were
man.
also enlightened about the universe, stars, and planets. Deciphering the tablets, some researchers have concluded that they contain information about the communication of the Sumerians with the messengers of the alien civilization who came from the Nibiru planet. It rotates in our star system on a very elongated orbit and passes close to the solar system once every 3,600 years. About the alleged contact between the Sumerians and the aliens is said, for example, in an ancient Mesopotamian text which was written about 2500 BC. The legend tells of the king Etana. One day a flying iron shield landed near the king's palace. He was not afraid of visitors, and accepting the offer, visited the moon, Mars, and Venus. After 2 weeks of absence, the king returned unharmed, and the star guests even stayed at his palace for several days. Perhaps this is just a beautiful legend, or maybe it really was, and this can be considered the first historical record of the contact.
Look at that, huh?
In general, the Sumerians And aliens are one of the favorite topics of various kinds of UFOologists.
What do we got here? I got like animal bodies, a people head.
And adherents of the theory of alien origin of mankind.
5 words you pronounce wrong 2 years before your brain starts shutting down. Dementia is now known as
Williams Enigmalith. Sometimes scientists get their hands on artifacts which origin is too difficult to explain. Dozens of different assumptions appear. Nevertheless, they have little to do with science, and sometimes even contradict common sense. There's even a special term for such findings in the scientific world: oopart. One example of an oopart is the so-called Williams Enigmalith. The word is made up of 2 Greek roots: enigma, which means riddle, and lithos, which means stone. In the late 90s of the last century, engineer John Williams was vacationing in the countryside somewhere in North America, and that's where he happened to find a 3-pin plug inserted into a stone. Partial examination of this geological electrical artifact shows that the stone itself is a granite formation about 100,000 years old. It consists of
How do you know it's that old? Like,
quartz, feldspar, and mica. It's not possible to find out what the Enigmalith body was made of, but it's neither metal nor wood, and it's certainly not plastic, rubber, or any other known material. In addition, there's no trace that the plug was glued in there, used cement, or made any other attempt to artificially insert the plug. Or was it just petrified? But is it possible? Some scientists consider Williams' Enigmalith a crude forgery, while Williams himself claims that it is direct evidence of the existence of an unknown, advanced ancient civilization. After all, if the authenticity of the Enigmalith is proven, it could radically change the entire known history of mankind. Do you think we can call the Enigmalith evidence that alien civilizations have visited us? Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned to see more frightening finds and artifacts that may hint that aliens have visited us before. Alien mummy. Archaeological excavations in Egypt always bring surprises. One of them brought even more surprises because archaeologists found a rather unusual mummy with unnatural facial features and an elongated shape of the skull. According
how long? That didn't look very big, huh? Are
to
aliens
witnesses,
like
the mummy's
little
head
bitty people?
strongly resembled aliens from science fiction movies. The analysis showed that the alien mummy was buried in the tomb around the year 323. Only more detailed research, in particular DNA analysis, will make it possible to determine whether the mummy belongs to an alien being. A stone with alien symbols. In 2019, a man vacationing on the Japanese island of Okinawa found something unusual. Walking along the beach, his eyes fell on a unique pellet which differed from the rest of the pebbles. He told the internet users about such a strange find, attaching a photo of the object as evidence. It's needless to even look too closely at the stone because it's already very well visible set of dark maroon patterns, which consist of suspiciously flat lines. The man noted that if you look at the find up close, you can clearly see flecks of other rock. It turns out that this can't be some kind of fake created by man. Moreover, it's unlikely that nature could also draw such amazing images and symbols in the stone. Many users agreed that the man found an artifact of alien origin created by representatives of extraterrestrial civilization. They suggest that these ambiguous
Man, that's pretty cool.
symbols can be encrypted some important information. It seems that the owner of the artifact urgently needs to contact experts because it's possible that this stone is a work of art of an extraterrestrial civilization. Alien civilization on Earth, noting the characteristics of its representatives. Salzburg Cube. The Wolf's Egg Iron, or the Salzburg Cube, are all names for one mysterious artifact. It was called the Wolf's Egg Iron because the coal itself was mined in the Wolf's Egg mine, and it was given the appellation Salzburg because it was in a museum of this city. In November 1885, a worker at a factory broke up a large piece of lignite in order to throw the rubble into the furnace. Inside it, he accidentally discovered a metal object in the form of a parallelopipe, which was 67 millimeters high, 62 millimeters wide, and 47 millimeters at its thickest part. In the center of the object, there was a deep, accurate incision. The find was immediately sent to a museum and began to be examined. One of the first professors and mining engineers, Friedrich Adolf Grolt, was among the first to take up the task. At a meeting in 1886, he stated that the object was made of metal, more precisely of iron, but that the man had nothing to do with its origin. They settled on the meteorite version, since the find had a small percentage of nickel in its composition and had the hardness of steel. Later, the artifact was studied in more detail. As a result, it turned out that it does not contain nickel, which means that it could not be a meteorite. Then a number of legitimate questions would follow. What is it? And now we take a look at the most mysterious and mass disappearances that no one can find an explanation for.
Right.
One possibility for disappearance could be alien abduction or UFO abduction. Yeah, it sounds strange, but many theorists and experts believe that such abductions are far from fiction. Some UFOologists complain that aliens can abduct people both singly and in mass, and such abductions have consequences. Some people manage to return to Earth, but these people are changed forever. For example, a UFO hunter from Houston named Daryl Sims says he has evidence of alien abductions. According to him, one woman abducted by UFOs returned to our planet with a kind of implant, which was implanted in her by representatives of an extraterrestrial civilization. It fell out of her eye and onto her desk while she was talking to her boss. However, implants are not the only thing that aliens implant in Earthlings. Sims recounted the metal balls he said one girl sneezed with after the aliens sprayed an unknown substance into her nose. Well, and other abducted people returned to Earth without such devices, but at least with a broken psyche. Barney and Betty Hill have not been spared this thing. Their story is considered the most enigmatic in terms of mass alien abduction, as well as the earliest documented case of so-called close encounter of the seventh kind. It happened on September 19, 1961, when the couple was returning home to Portsmouth. While driving down the highway, Barney detected a suspicious light following their car. Barney stopped the car and pulled out his binoculars to see the glowing disc. He saw the figures of 11 humanoid beings that were following him and his wife in a UFO. The Hills' escape didn't work. Soon the car began to slow down, then stopped, rooted to the ground, and the electronics inside the cabin completely failed. At the same time, the spouses felt that they were falling asleep. They woke up 2 hours later, 31 miles away from the place where everything happened. The couple believed they'd experienced an alien abduction experience. For the next 2 years, Betty suffered from mental disorders.
Yeah, that would freak you out, huh? I mean, you're driving down the road,
Which
and then all of
included
a sudden,
nightmares
boom,
that
boom,
she
boom.
couldn't distinguish from reality. Often she dreamt that she and Barney were abducted by stunted humanoids who used both of them as test subjects, exploring the human body. Unable to cope with their problems on their own, Barney and Betty decided to see a psychiatrist who suggested they take a course in hypnosis. Surprisingly, the course helped them remember many details of the abduction, and one day Betty drew a star map that the alien showed her. This map drew the paths of where they came from and where they traveled. Later, after general sessions, the exact same memories were expressed by Barney. Something similar happened to Michael Lapp and Janet Cornell on August 7, 1968. According to them, they were abducted by aliens near the Cape right from a boat floating in the lake at the camp. Michael couldn't remember anything until he decided to go to the UFO Research Center because of the nightmares he'd been suffering from for a long time. At the center, under the influence of hypnosis, He remembered coming aboard the ship and seeing Janet lying on the table and several aliens around her. They were examining her and taking skin scrapings. According to the abductees, they wanted to spawn the human race on other planets. What do you think of these cases? Was it all real, or are these stories fake or exaggerated? Share your thoughts in the comments. And stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. Further, there
other planets.
are truly mystical and 100% real cases of
Are they enslaving them so they can dig for gold and stuff?
mass disappearances that no one can still explain.
This is the Patriot Power Cell. It's a portable battery pack with a
What would you think?
built-in solar panel for endless power.
In the 16th century, the English colony of the same name was founded on Roanoke Island near North Carolina in America. It was intended to be the first permanent English settlement in North America, but it went down in history not only as such, but also as one of the most mystical mass disappearances. The first expedition of over 100 men arrived in Roanoke in 1585. It included John White, who for a time was governor of Roanoke Island. At some point, he sailed back to England and returned a couple years later with a new expedition. The first one was gone by then. When John and the others arrived in Roanoke, the island was empty. They found only the skeleton of one man and the word Croatoan carved on a tree. As it turned out, it was the name of an Indian tribe which people lived south of the island. Apparently, one of the members of the first expedition carved this name on a tree as a hint for who's responsible for the mass disappearance. One theory was that the settlers had indeed been killed by Native Americans, but the truth has recently come to light. Apparently, these settlers left the island and took refuge 43 miles away. 2 years ago, scientists found many 16th century English, German, French,
Huh.
and Spanish pottery there.
Another island. This ain't gonna work.
Hor-
I don't know. It just
Verda.
kind of weird.
In February 1923, a group of tourists traveling through Brazil stumbled upon the village of Verda, with about 600 people living there at the time. Initially, the tourists wanted to stop in the village for a halt, but when they entered Verda, they were dumbfounded. There was no one there, not a single person, not even an animal. The tourists began to look around the area and were even more surprised. In many houses, the radios were working, there was food on the tables, and somewhere there was even a fire. It seemed as if the inhabitants of the village had left it just a few minutes or hours ago. The tourists began to look for traces but found nothing. The inhabitants of Verda seemed to have vanished into thin air. The tourists went to the police officers, who began their own investigation. They found no clues except one suspicious note on the blackboard of the village school that read, "No rescue." Who had left it? The locals or the people who kidnapped them? And were the kidnappers humans? There are no answers or people. None of the missing have been found. What's frightening is that the Verda incident is not the only one of its kind. 7 years later, the mystical
How is
situation
that?
repeated
People
itself.
just disappear?
Hunter Joe LaBelle was looking for a place to sleep and decided to go to an Inuit
Can you imagine walking to a village and all the shit is burning?
village
They got
near
fires
Anjikuni
going,
Lake in Canada.
Nobody's there.
Joe knew the inhabitants well because he'd traded with them and they knew him well. Joe knew that a village with a population of a few hundred people was always ready to welcome him. But no one met him that day. Upon entering the village, Joe found not a single soul. As in the Verda case,
Not
everything
one.
indicated that there'd been no commotion. Food was lying in the houses and guns were hanging. Joe began his investigation and discovered a ruined grave in the local cemetery, as well as the bodies of 7 dogs near the village. As it turned out later, they had starved to death, which was strange since there was plenty of food in the village. The missing people were never found. It's not known what happened that day in the Canadian village, but it seems that this case has something to do with the mysterious disappearance in Verda. Disappearance in Sulva Bay.
So,
Mysterious disappearances have occurred not only in America, but also in Europe. One of the most inexplicable happened in the Bay of Sulva in Turkey. This picturesque shore of the Aegean Sea, planted with cypress trees, keeps its own legend, known to many fans
wow.
of horror
How pretty
stories.
that is.
In August 1915, a British landing party, the Norfolk
I mean, we're
Regiment,
almost
landed there. The regiment came under heavy machine gun and sniper fire. Since the nearby forest was set on fire by British and Turkish artillery, the regiment was cut off from the rest of the forces, having lost orientation in space. Trying to break through the village, soldiers disappeared into a thick fog, and no one else saw them. When the fog cleared, there were no living soldiers or their bodies. It's still unknown where the soldiers went. According to one version, they were captured and executed, but according to another, something mystical and inexplicable happened that day. Some even believe that the mysterious disappearance of the Norfolk Regiment is related to the experiments of Nikola Tesla. By the way, the episode itself, as well as the battle in the bay, are reflected in culture. The song called Foggy Dew is dedicated to this event. By the way, it's Conor McGregor's walkout song in the UFC.
They want to give you these.
Missing in Sweden. Sweden is considered to be a fairly peaceful country, but even here, stranger things sometimes happen. The only mass disappearance in Swedish history was on July 29, 1960.
July 29th, what?
65. 4 young people seem to have vanished into
Well, yeah, but if you're in the woods
thin
like
air on the
that,
outskirts of Gothenburg. Jay Carlson, Jan Olaf Daljo, and Kjell Ake Jansson were friends who worked together. They were last seen driving a blue Volvo out of the city. Reports of the men going missing came in from their families at different times. This may have been the reason why police didn't immediately connect the disappearances of all 3 men. None of them had a driver's license, which meant that at least one of them was driving without a license. Although the young men were previously arrested for minor violations, in general they were considered to be good guys. The very fact that they disappeared was very strange, but it didn't end there. On the same day, another man named Hubert Lundqvist went missing in Gothenburg. From there, he sent his loved ones a postcard that said, "All is well, don't worry." That was the last message about Lundqvist. He's believed to have joined the trip with the 3 men in the blue Volvo, but it's not known if they'd known each other before or if the meeting was coincidental. But either way, none of them were ever found. MV Joyita. Just like the Titanic, the MV Joyita was considered unsinkable. And as in the Titanic case, disaster struck the MV Joyita. In October 1955, the ship
Wait, how are you gonna compare that little bitty thing to the Titanic?
sailed to the coast of the New Zealand archipelago Tokelau with 25
I mean, 25 people versus 2,000.
passengers and several crew members on board. The ship stopped communicating and was found half sunk 37 days later on Vanuatu, the second largest island off Fiji. There was no one on board. The ship was known to be carrying 4 tons of cargo to New Zealand, but it disappeared with the passengers and crew. The already bizarre incident began to become even more mysterious when details began to emerge. The radio on the MV Joyita was tuned to a distress channel. There were no lifeboats on board, but there were plenty of bloody bandages. It's not known how this can be connected, but some experts have theories. According to them, the MV Joyita began to sink because of corroded pipes. The crew sent a distress signal, which no one received, and then left the ship in lifeboats. Passengers most likely had to jump into the water in inflatable vests. According to this version, some were eaten by sharks, and others were swept out to sea by the current. Even if that's the case, what does this have to do with a lot of bloody bandages? Where'd the crew go? Where'd the entire 4 tons of cargo disappear to?
Right.
That's unknown. And that's all, guys. Which story impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Well, there you go. Look at that. Aliens are everywhere. Thanks for watching, guys.